Jimenez, Maria Elvira Salazar, and Victoria Sparts. Sparts grew up in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic and lived there for 42 years. She said she's very sad to see what is happening in the U.S. Election results so far showed the Republicans gaining 8 extra House seats, 7 from the Democratic Party and 1 from others. The Democratic Party is projected to keep its majority in the House with a narrow margin.
And Congresswoman Debbie Lesko wants to rein in the Chinese Communist Party. She's introduced a bill to block entry to the United States for Chinese officials or military personnel and even their families if they've been involved in stealing technology from the United States or American companies. She says China has a long history of IP theft, and she says it's a big problem. I asked her what's been happening.
They are recruiting people out of universities, professors and students out of universities here in the United States. They are placing their students and their top researchers in universities throughout the United States in an attempt to learn and steal our research and intellectual property. I've also been told that many times when U.S. businesses try to get business in China, that they are required to turn over their intellectual property. And of course, that will in the future make China more competitive. And this is just all wrong, and I don't believe it should go on. I'm glad President Trump was very strong on this issue, and no matter who is the president next, we should continue to put pressure on the Chinese to stop them from stealing our intellectual property.
Do you worry about any kind of
Both Republican and Democrat have slid into deceptive politics while slowly eroding the truth and benefit of transparency. Members of Congress, think tanks, presidents, cabinet officials, and the media had all benefited from a sort of gentleman's rules about how Washington, D.C. should operate. Donald Trump obliterated those rules and brought a WWE style to Washington. The establishment didn't like it. Remember how many established Republicans opposed Donald Trump in 2016? The list is so long it has its own Wikipedia page and is broken up by category of title. Donald Trump shook up the Republican Party, and many Republicans hated him. Some still do. Most have come around to recognize that the Republican Party has changed. It's now the party of Trump. Those who want the old secret deals and special privileges based on connections have been sidelined. The majority of Republicans have accepted the shift and embraced transparency, some more begrudgingly than others. Democrats are still clinging to the good old boys network of let's tell the American people one thing, but do another. As long as the media is on the side of the establishment, Congress and other powerful leaders can keep the American people in the dark. Donald Trump pulled back the curtain and revealed the corruption for the American people to see. The establishment illegally surveyed candidate Trump's advisors, lied to the court, illegally prosecuted the National Security Advisor, falsely created the Russia hoax, paid foreign intelligence officers for a fake dossier, cooperated with a Russian subsource, lied to the President of the United States, withheld exculpatory evidence, misused the impeachment process, and the list goes on. They've overlooked the fact that Biden did exactly what they unsuccessfully tried to accuse Trump of doing with Ukraine. The Ukraine's equivalent of Attorney General was investigating Burisma, the Ukrainian oil company paying Hunter Biden $80,000 a month in kickbacks. In exchange for the Ukraine firing their prosecutor general, Biden agreed to pay the Ukraine $1 billion in exchange for terminating the man investigating Hunter Biden. One America's Chanel Rion obtained the recordings.
There is a new government and a new prosecutor general. I am prepared to do a public signing of the commitment for the $1 billion. Again, I'm not suggesting that that's what you want or don't want. I'm just suggesting that that's what we're prepared to do. And again, it wouldn't be finalized until, the IMF pieces are written.
Extremely strong motivation.
We've all been betrayed. Republicans, Democrats, and independents.
And as soon as I sat down at the larger table, I realized it was a little larger group than I had anticipated. And I made a bad mistake. Instead of sitting down, I should have stood up and walked back, got in my car, and drove back to my house. Instead, I chose to sit there with my wife and a number of other couples that were outside the household. And you can quibble about the guidelines, et cetera, but the spirit of what I'm preaching all the time was contradicted, and I got to own that. And so I want to apologize to you because I need to preach and practice, not just preach and not practice. And I've done my best to do that.
As coronavirus cases continue to soar in California, some residents of the state aren't happy with the new COVID-19 safety regulations. California Governor Gavin Newsom issued a stay-at-home order to begin last Saturday night to try and take control of the increasing numbers. Just yesterday, nearly 14,000 coronavirus cases were recorded in the state and another 60 deaths. But some people aren't too happy with the stay-at-home order that the Democratic governor issued, especially Trump fans who have taken to the streets after curfew kicked in at Huntington Beach to protest against them. Take a look.
I'm wearing a mask because half my face is ugly or something like that.
All right, U.S. Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, Office for Access to Justice, Washington, D.C., 20530, March 14th, 2016. Now, this is a letter that was sent out to all courts and those of you who are subject to child support issues, among other issues. This is a letter outlining the Constitution and the laws that all courts must follow. It's a 9-page letter that you can go and Google online, or you can email us here at themullings@gmail.com. It goes on to say, dear colleague, the Department of Justice, the department is committed to assisting in the department is committed to assisting state and local courts in their efforts to ensure equal justice and due process for all those who come before them. In December 2015, the department convened a diverse group of stakeholders, judges, courts, administrators, lawmakers, prosecutors, defense attorneys, advocates, and impacted individuals to discuss the assessment and enforcement of fines and fees in state and local courts. While the convening made plain that unlawful and harmful practices exist in certain jurisdictions throughout the country, it is also highlighted a number of reform efforts underway by state leaders, judicial officers, and advocates, and underscored the commitment of all the participants to continue addressing these critical issues. At the meeting, participants and department officials also discussed ways in which the department could assist courts in their efforts to make needed changes Among other recommendations, participants called on the department to provide greater clarity to state and local courts regarding their legal obligations with respect to fines and fees, and to share best practices. Accordingly, this letter is intended to address some of the most common practices that run afoul of the United States Constitution and or other federal laws, and to assist court leadership in ensuring that courts at every level of the justice system operate fairly and lawfully, as well as suggest alternative practices that can address legitimate public safety needs while also protecting the rights of participants in the justice system. Anyways, it goes on to read as you scroll down to page 3 here. If I can get to that, I'll show you. It talks about an indigent and someone's inability to pay. Courts, it lists several procedures here. Let me just see if I can go through it quickly. Courts must not incarcerate a person for non-payment of fines or fees without first conducting an indigency determination and establishing that the failure to pay was willful. Number 2, courts must consider alternatives to incarceration for indigent defendants unable to pay fines and fees. Number 3, courts must not condition access to a judicial hearing on the prepayment of fines or fees. Number 4, courts must provide meaningful notice in appropriate cases, counsel when enforcing fines and fees. Number 5, courts must not use arrest warrants or license suspensions as a means of coercing payment of court debt when individuals have not been afforded constitutionally adequate procedural protections. Courts must not employ bail or bond practices that cause indigent defendants to remain incarcerated solely because they cannot afford to pay for their release. And practices by court staff and private contractors. When you read this document, it also briefly mentions that these practices by court staff and private contractors. When you read this document, it also briefly mentions that these for their release. And then it goes on to say, number 7, courts must safeguard against unconstitutional practices by court staff and private contractors. Burundi orders local United Nations office to shut down. United Nations Populations Fund Sub-Regional Caribbean office is located at 3rd floor Seabed Building, Jamaica Conference Center, 14-20 Port Royal Street, Kingston. United Nations Association in Canada, Toronto branch, Royal Bank Plaza, 200 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, M5J216, Canada. Trump has control over all assets for the Department of Defense, NSA, Air Force, Federal Reserve, and Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, the covert teams of Special Operations Forces, all special units, U.S. Army Rangers, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, and any special unit of U.S. military forces have always reported directly to the President. He also is the Chancery, the Exchequer for the world. According to mountains of evidence regarding Dominion voter machines that threw Trump votes to Biden and other vote fraud issues, this 2020 presidential election was won by 80% vote for Trump. An election that was actually a military-grade sting operation that was in the process of bringing down the criminal power structure that has been ruling this country and every country around the world for a very long time. For the last 10 days, operation forces Special Ops Forces of Green Berets, Rangers, Delta, and Navy SEALs have been flying over urban areas on special missions to apprehend deep state criminals such as Antifa, MS-13, BLM thugs, deep state politicians, bureaucrats, and other bad actors. On Monday, the 23rd of November, George Soros was arrested in Philadelphia and now is in federal custody for election interference with other charges waiting. Soros was said to be the head of the board of directors for Dominion voting machines. President of the United States was being alerted to all obstructionists, those putting out misinformation on the Department of Defense security teams, and any obstructionist in the U.S. Treasury. Expect more from the President of the United States firings. Patriots and POTUS, President of the United States, were beyond tired, and it would not be tolerated any longer. Breaking news: Trump is going to the Supreme Court for a Pennsylvania win, and they're now reporting that the Federal Elections Commission is now doing some investigation on possibly overturning the entire election for fraud. All right, you guys, to support us here, you guys go to PayPal at themullings@gmail.com. Thank you to each and every one of you for your support to us here. I'd like to pray. Heavenly Father God, we pray. I want to put a hedge of protection around all that is good globally. Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, the Army, the Navy, the military, the Marines, and all that is good globally, and the ones that are not so good at the moment. For those of you with tickets, citations, child support cases, mortgages, foreclosures, as well as those of you who have warrants and those of you with student loans, auto loans, as well as those of you having to see an agent doing business as parole officer, as well as those of you in for nonviolent offenses. You can email us for the GSA bond templates to set off the matters, as well as the 1099 OID to get back the finances they claimed you owed, as well as the fraudulent conveyance of language laws, the do not detain affidavit, the court claims all laws, the letter of rogatory, and all the stuff we share here with you, the international promissory notes, the international bills of exchange, the master account, the manufacturer's certificate of origin, so you own the automobile, no more tickets and citations. You can email us for all of that. We do ask for donations for our time and our research. You can go to themullings@gmail.com. We do ask for donations for this channel. You guys go to PayPal at themullings@gmail.com so we can continue to uplift fallen humanity and the people globally that are good. Attention Office of Interpol, the International Criminal World Court, the Army, the Navy, the military, the Marines, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. The Federal Elections Commission heads the Federal Commission's Communications Commission's heads. Jay Clayton doing business as Securities and Exchange Commissioner, Louis DeJoy doing business as Postmaster General, Joseph Otting doing business for the head for the Comptroller of Currency, Donald Trump doing business as a head for the Treasury and the Exchequer globally, and all that is good, the Fraud Department, Interpol, the Federal Bureau of Investigations agents that are good, the Universal Postal Union heads. At the very top, I come to you in good faith in one's proper person, as a living flesh and blood sentient being, Suri Juris Suri Eris, heir to the world's vast estate, Moabite Queen Empress holding the highest diplomatic office, AA222141, and one's private number 449593444. As a rubus red rose, angel in Latin, asexual seed plant, Reubenite tribe chief, American Indian, allodial title Moorish American national. I command, order, and demand you go now quickly and round up all the heads for all United Nations globally and remove every single office on the planet this night. Shut them down and arrest all the agents at the top right for all that they harm that they have caused to the people on those lands globally.
especially ones here in this territory now known as Indian country, Morocco, Maghreb, the North Gate, also known as Jamaica, and Canaanite land, Canada, and the rest of the so-called Caribbean, and the rest of South America, and the rest of the globe. Go and round them up this night for treason, genocide, war crimes against humanity, for using fraudulent conveyance of language, laws against the people, and the people do not know what is really going on with this so-called corrupted agent doing business as the United Nations. As you know, we had sued all the United Nations heads in one's claim deed many moons prior, and had also written to them privately. And they had acquiesced to all by not rebutting one single word that we wrote to them about the said human trafficking and now the pedophilia and all the human sacrifice and all the things that we were subjected to under the organ harvesting regime, right? Go and round them up this night for treason, war crimes against humanity, genocide, racketeering, apartheid, estate land theft, identity theft, copyright infringement, intellectual property theft, and the like. Go and charge them and round up all the profits they've generated from all of us globally and send it back to all the people globally this night, along with their estates, right? In addition to the fact that it's now been reported to us that the masks, the bleach, the thermometer kits, and the so-called protocol is in fact unconstitutional. It is in fact all of it unconstitutional, so we are being forced to break the law. Go and round up all the masks, the test kits, and the so-called thermometers and all the crap located involved in this scamdemic that has taken afoot on the planet, right? As the people have yet to see a contract that they have signed with these corrupted agents doing business as de facto pretender entities in their private capacity, doing business as mercenaries on the lands globally, forcing the people to commit self-suicide and in this current genocide. Going on, round up all the profits they generated from that fraudulent conveyance of language laws and send it back to the people globally this night. Do that for us, right? In addition to that, Federal Elections Commission's heads go now and make this election null and void ab initio, as all of it is elections fraud. And then you can have another election in the 120 days if need be, right? Though we do not see another candidate, as Biden and Hunter has already been, it's been reported to us here, executed and arrested for treason and genocide on the children for pedophilia and human trafficking, right? For the said Biden crime family. So go and round up all the agents involved in that treason, fraud, genocide, racketeering, peonage on the people globally in this current election fraud and all the other election frauds that's taken place, right? See to it that Donald Trump is protected on his road as he is trying to clean house and protect all of us globally. Put a hedge of protection around him now and see to it that all the good people that are helping him in the Army and the Navy, the military, and Marines are protected. Angels, go and do that now. All the people that you know is crying this night and reported to us that they are so upset by what they're hearing, right? I need you to send some angels to comfort their souls as all of us go through this rude awakening as to all the deceptions that we have been subjected to from birth. Deal with that now on our behalf. Thank you in advance for your speedy response to that matter. By Noble Honorable Ange L. Enadi Alfet L. Reubenite Tribe Chief, American Indian, Allodial Title Moorish American, Nationals UCC 1-308 without recourse, all rights reserved. I stand by the Book of Ruth by my deceased organ harvested husband and myself, Jackson. Dolo kodoro kadala takano chike takano o kokoi takala takana ni kakai no ro takoro taki na takano nena nak nina nakai na ko Nina nakai takano e takanai e takano tako Nina nakai takano takano e takanai taki nena na hoi takanai ne no ko e takanai na na taka no ki No no kita kana na kaina na kuta kana no taka nina na kaita kana no te kina na taka no no koi taka na taka na taka na taka. Angels, I ask you to lift up our spirits here and the people around the globe that are feeling this pain. All right, you guys, have yourself a great day. Like, share, subscribe. You guys remember to support us here. Go to PayPal at themullings@gmail.com. Thank you.